Hey YouTube, Gordon Miller back again. Okay, so I'm answering some questions that I get from the folks following me on Quora, and one of the questions that I wanted to address was, how did you get started in being an entrepreneur? Well, actually, the path that I ended up taking was not a direct one. I didn't start out being an entrepreneur, although my father owned several businesses of his own in his lifetime, and that was really kind of the only model I had. So I knew chances were I was going to end up owning my own businesses because kids tend to follow whatever the parents do. So if your father's a doctor, there's a good chance you might be a doctor. If one of your parents is a lawyer, your chances are one of the kids is going to be a lawyer. So my father owned businesses, and so that's what I had as a model. And so as I grew up, I had the opportunity to pay attention to what he did that worked and what didn't work, and how to develop a business and the various components of that. And I had a chance to work in his business for the 5 years, my senior year of high school, 4 years of college, and the year between when I went to undergrad and graduate school. So a total of 6 years. It was a great experience. I learned a great deal. I really credit all the time that I spent learning everything from him in how I've been able to be successful, because I literally started from the time I was 17 working in the business and understanding how businesses worked, and that was a great opportunity for me to be able to emulate that. That worked out great. So I was originally going to go to aerospace engineering school. I got accepted early decision at Embry-Riddle, and because of my math capability, all my advanced computational math was off the charts good. And so I decided I was going to go into aerospace engineering because car designers were mostly aerospace engineers, and so that's kind of what I wanted to go into. I actually took a field trip going to New York City, and saw plays and went to museums and began to understand more about the role of design. In fact, the Museum of Modern Art was where I learned that product design had these products that people had made and designed that were in the museum because they were so beautiful. And I realized that engineering and design, this is again back in the 1980s, early 1980s, so 1983, when I went to New York. And it was a really interesting experience for me. It changed my life. It really did. And so I came back and I told my parents that I think I'm going to not go to engineering school. I'm going to put engineering on hold for now, and I'm going to go to design school. Well, I think my parents thought I was insane. I'm sure they probably wanted to have me drug tested to figure out what the hell was going on, because here I had a promising opportunity at Embry-Riddle. I already had an internship set up at Martin Marietta. I was going to end up working with NASA. So all that was already set. I was 17 and I was set for life. And but I decided not to go that route. And I'm so glad I did. I'm so glad I changed my mind. I'm so glad that I went the route of design, because for me, I was able to learn the importance of design and how to communicate visually, how to be able to draw and how to be able to communicate. And that is the most important skill for an entrepreneur to have. If you can communicate your ideas effectively to investors and customers and everybody else and other employees, then you are going to succeed. There's no way around that. So I learned all about how to communicate, learned all about design, and then the opportunity came along for me to figure out what was I going to do next. So I had this design background, and I have a bachelor's of fine art and design. So I looked for areas where where design and engineering came together. And I looked at the discipline of architecture, where at that time there were 3 disciplines that had special programs to afford to pay for college, and those were called professional disciplines. And you could be a doctor, you could be a lawyer, or you could be an architect. So I was like, wow, okay, that's great. So there's special financing is available if you want to become an architect. And I did more research, and architecture combined the best of both engineering and design, and computers were just starting to be used when I was in college, and I had developed some creative ways of using computers in design. And so I wanted to pursue that. And thankfully I did. The 2 programs that were ranked at the top during that time was the Harvard School of Design, which is an amazing school, and Virginia Tech, which was modeled after the Harvard School of Design. Well, Harvard was like $90,000 a year, and Virginia Tech was not. So I think it was about $20,000 a year. For me, it was an easy decision to decide, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do Virginia Tech. And it was a great program. I really enjoyed it. I spent 2.5 years there doing the program. And during that time, I got a chance to develop computing labs for the College of Architecture, the undergraduate computing lab. Then I got asked by engineering to consult with them my last year in graduate school on the development of the Lab for Scientific Visual Analysis in engineering. And that opportunity led to an offer from the College of Engineering and the College of Architecture to found my own lab and become the director of the Multimedia Lab at Virginia Tech. So during that time, I started in 1989 and 90 with the SciViz Lab, and 90-91 with the Multimedia Lab, and the lab opened in 92. And I was the director for 5 years until 97. Well, you'll notice that I started my company in 1993 as a consulting firm, and then hired employees and developed our business base starting in 1994, where we won international design awards and all kinds of great things with the work that the folks that were working with me, had done. So. For the first few years, I was working my full-time job at the university. I would go in there at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I would work my job at the university from 8 until 4, and then I would then get some dinner, and I would report to the school, report to my office at the Corporation Center at Virginia Tech, and I would start working at 5 o'clock and work until 2 a.m. on the stuff for the company. And then we get everything set up and ready for all the folks that were coming in the next day, and get everything ready so that we knew what it is that the rest of the team had to do. And I would work 8 hours a day at the university, and I would work 8 hours a day in the company. So I worked 16 hours a day for over 2 years until we landed one of our large contracts in 1996 for the U.S. Navy. And ironically, quite by mistake, I was going to deposit a check for $100 from a client, and because $100 was a lot of money back then, and happened to run into somebody who was looking for somebody, talking to the director of the Corporation Center and trying to find a company that could help them with this large contract. And so we won this $50,000 or $60,000 contract just by depositing our $100 check. So it was amazing. But the opportunity that really led for me to leave and start the company was we had 700 lab tours over 3 years at the Multimedia Lab, and I hosted every single company in the Fortune 500, as well as every delegation from every place we have an embassy, all 118 countries. So for me, I had an amazing Rolodex that I could not have purchased anywhere else. And my first clients were FedEx and MCI and Eastman Chemical Corporation and other folks like that. And it was amazing. I did some consulting work with IBM and with Apple, and I was loving it. It was fantastic. And so we began to do more educational work and digital textbook conversions and other things like that, working with McGraw-Hill and Prentice Hall Publishing. I had an opportunity to co-author and tech edit 4 books. It was a great process. I enjoyed working on those things. But we went eventually from building training to building training systems to building enterprise systems for various different functions. And so we slowly evolved into that as the systems got older. We had experience in what was then called legacy systems because we had been there and doing that when those systems were around. So we developed a capability in legacy systems migration, and that gave us an opportunity to win other work that other people, just didn't have. So when we went from the work that we did with the Navy, we began doing work with the Army. We built the Army training portal at train.army.mil. I was one of the designers on that team, designing the user interfaces and the workflow. Then we went and did the smart messaging portal for the State Department in 2004 and 2005. Then I worked on buffer zone protection plan tools and site profiler survey tools with DHS and with the folks at Digital Sandbox. It was great. I mean, it was an unbelievable time. I really enjoyed the work that we've done over the years. We've contributed to a lot of great systems. The full list of most of the projects are up on our website. But I really have enjoyed that. Right now, we've been working 10 years at Health and Human Services on a contract there, dozens of systems. One of my other companies, MediaTek, has the contract at the Army Training Support Center at Fort Eustis with U.S. Army TRADOC. With several systems there. So really, it's an amazing opportunity. We've really enjoyed building that, but I've really enjoyed over the last 10 years, especially building these other companies and launching those platform capabilities. And our focus now has been on residual revenue because while we've been doing great as a consulting service and as a contract shop building software and things like that, our real focus is on building platforms that we can generate recurring revenue from so that we don't have to do a labor hour type of opportunity. And so those are the kind of things we've been launching here recently. And so that's how I got started. I mean, literally working from the time I was 17. In fact, I actually worked starting from the time I was about 13 when they finally allowed Virginia businesses to be open on the weekend on Sunday. They repealed the blue laws, but nobody wanted to work at my father's gas station. So I said I would work it from noon until 5. I worked 5 hours, made $4 an hour, which was the going rate back then, and made $20. So I made $20 a week back when $20 a week was something worth making. And I was 13 and had my own money, and that's the way I learned how to do that. So I really started working at a young age. I really enjoyed doing that. Enjoyed working with my father for the several years that I was able to do that. And I enjoyed working the 5 years at Virginia Tech. It was a great place to be. Ironically, I've only had literally 3 jobs my entire life. I worked for my father's company for 6 years. I worked for the university for 5 years. And then I started my own company at age 28, and I've had that since then. So 23 years. I'm now 52. So anyway, it's been a great experience for me, and I'm going to be sharing more about what that experience is like. Thank some of the folks from Quora for reaching out with questions. We're going to go ahead and try to answer some of those questions on videos like this. Thanks a lot. Gordon Miller from G3 saying, thanks for watching.